All rise for the national anthem, followed by Tamil Thai Varthu Tamil Nadu and Tamil Thai Varthu Puducherry.
भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगल गायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे.
கடலொடுத்த நிலமடந்த கெழிலொழுகும் சீராரும் வதனமென திகழ் பரத கண்டமிது தெக்கணமும் அதிர்ச்சிறந்த திராவிடனல் திருநாடும் தக்க சிறு பிறை நுதலும் தரித்தனலும் திலகமுமே அத்திலக வாசனை போல் அனைத்துலகும் இன்பமுற எத்திசையும் புகழ் மணக்க இருந்த பெரும் தமிழனங்கே தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிலமை திறம்பி என்று செயல் மறந்து வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே வாழ்த்துதுமே. வாழ்வினில் செம்மையை செய்பவள் நீயே மாண்புகள் நீயே என் தமிழ் தாயே வீழ்வாரை வீழாது காட்பவள் நீயே வீரனின் வீரமும் வெற்றியும் நீயே தாழ்ந்திடும் நிலையினில் உன்னை விடுப்பேனோ தமிழனாலும் தலை குனிவேனோ சூழ்ந்தின்பம் நல்கிடும் பைத்தமிழனாய் தோன்றுதல் நீ உயிர் நான் மறப்பேனோ செந்தமிழே உயிரே நருந்தேனே செயலினை மூச்சினை உனக்களித்தேனே நைந்தாரை நிலைந்த போகும் என் வாழ்வு நல்நிலை உனக்கெனில் எனக்கும் தானே முந்தைய நாடினில் அறிவும் இல்லாது மொய்த்தனர் மனிதராம் புது புனல் மீது செந்தாமரை காடு பூத்தது போலே செழித்த என் தமிழே ஒலியே வாழி செழித்த என் தமிழே ஒலியே வாழி செழித்த என் தமிழே ஒலியே வாழி.
Kindly take your seats. Let us have a brief concentration with a prayer written by the mother on 9th December 1950.
Struggle
Vanakkam and welcome to PLF 2024. We begin the festival with a lamp lighting ceremony and offering of flowers to Sri Aurobindo. We'd like to invite Honorable Governor of Tamil Nadu, Sri R.N. Ravi, to light the lamp and offer flowers. We'd like to invite our beloved Manojda to light the lamp and offer flowers. We'd like to invite Dr. Anand Ranganathan to light the lamp. Just pull it out a little. We'd like to invite Sri Aravindan Neelakandan to light the lamp. We invite Alo Pal, Festival Director, to speak a few words.
Namaste. Honorable Governor of Tamil Nadu, Sri R.N. Raviji, Manojda, I can call you Managing Trustee, Sri Aurobindo Ashram Trust, but then you are Manojda to us and you will remain so. esteemed guest speakers of PLF 2024 and friends. On behalf of the team, I extend to you a warm welcome for the 2024 edition of the Pondy Lit Fest. I will take a few minutes of your time before we proceed to begin to reiterate why we do what we do. And for this, fear not, I will not confuse you with the peripatetic, verbose inarticulation I am often rightfully accused of, but I will instead take recourse to the sublimity of Sri Aurobindo's words. In his pamphlet Bhavani Mandir, published in 1905, Sri Aurobindo explained to us not only why a great nation as ours had fallen, but also outlined for us a path for her resurrection. And so I borrow from his wisdom when I attempt to outline what we attempt at the PLF. I quote, "India, the ancient mother, is indeed striving to be reborn, striving with agony and tears, but she strives in vain. What ails her, she, who is after all so vast and might be so strong? There is surely some enormous defect, something vital is wanting in us, nor is it difficult to lay our finger on the spot. We have all things else, but we are empty of strength, void of energy. We have abandoned Shakti and are therefore abandoned by Shakti. The mother is not in our hearts, in our brains, in our arms. India, the wish to be reborn, we have in abundance. There is no deficiency there. How many attempts have been made? How many movements have been begun? In religion, in society, in politics. But the same fate has overtaken or is preparing to overtake them all. They flourish for a moment, then the impulse wanes. The fire dies out. And if they endure, it is only as empty shells, forms from which the Brahma has gone, or in which it lies overpowered with tamas and inert. Our beginnings are mighty, but they have neither sequel nor fruit. Our knowledge then, weighed down with a heavy load of tamas, lies under the curse of impotence and inertia. We choose to fancy need nowadays that if we acquire science, all will be well. Let us ask first ourselves what we have done with the knowledge we already possess, or what have those who have already acquired science been able to do for India. The mighty force of knowledge which European science bestows is a weapon for the hands of a giant. It is the mace of Bhimsen. What can a weakling do with it but crush himself in the attempt to wield it? The deeper we look, the more we shall be convinced that the one thing wanting, which we must strive to acquire before all others, is strength. Strength physical, strength mental, strength moral, but above all, strength spiritual, which is the one inexhaustible and imperishable source of all the others. If we have strength, everything else will be added to us easily and naturally. In the absence of strength, we are like men in a dream, who have hands but cannot seize, who have feet but cannot run. Many of us, utterly overcome by tamas, the dark and heavy demon of inertia, are saying nowadays that it is impossible, that India is decayed, bloodless, and lifeless, too weak ever to recover, that our race is doomed to extinction. It is a foolish and idle saying. No man or nation need be weak unless he chooses. No man or nation need perish unless he deliberately chooses extinction." End quote. The aim before us is clear. The task for all of us to venerate our country as our mother is to re-seize her Shakti and shed our inertia integrally. Of the various aspects of this inertia, there is the mind. And our effort here, in a minuscule, humble drop in the gigantic wave of mental awakening that should engulf all of India, were she to rise to her potential. We are grateful and fortunate indeed that every year the very best of minds in India today accept our invitation and share with us generously their knowledge and scholarship in domains that they excel in. We organize this meeting ground that facilitates an exchange of knowledge and ideas. Our aim is to inform, enrich, and especially to empower, because knowledge is power indeed. With that, I conclude, extending to you all a warm welcome. Thank you.
Honorable Governor will now release the book, A Dharmic Social History of India. And the first copy is received by Sri Aravindan Neelakandan, author, eminent scholar. I invite on stage Sri Naveen Jha, Sri Anand Ranganathan, he will give. Okay na. Eke. Oi, mohilata ke na. Not yet. Honorable Governor will now release the book Panchakosha Pathway, Essential Indic Guide to Self-Discovery. And the first copy is received by Matushri Anantalakshmi ji. Give him one. The Honorable Governor of Tamil Nadu, Sri R.N. Ravi, will now deliver the Chief Guest Address.
पूजनीय गुरु माता मातृश्री अनंत लक्ष्मी जी of Anadi Foundation, Sri Aurobindo Neelakandan ji, who has served this dharma enormously by contributing through his research and literary work, and today we got one more contribution from him, is Dharmic Social History of India. He is a contributing editor, Swarajya. respected Alupalji, who is director Pondy Lit Festival, distinguished scholars, thought leaders, commanders and soldiers of Bharat Shakti. This land is a sacred land. This land has the presence of one of the tallest all-time rishis of Bharat, Sri Aurobindo. This land where he lived, he walked, it bears his footprint. He meditated, he taught, and he left a priceless corpus of wisdom for Renaissance of India. Coming to this place, for a person like me, it is a pilgrimage. And I thank Pondicherry Lit Fest for giving me this opportunity. Sri Aurobindo Society, Sri Aurobindo Ashram, people, those who are associated with these institutions, they have been carrying on with the legacy of great Sri Aurobindo, trying in their own modest way to carry on and spread the light that he had bestowed and bequeathed to the generations, future generations. But then, when some of them decided, some years back, to start this Lit Fest, it is a revolutionary initiative to fulfill the dream of Sri Aurobindo. Spreading the light, spreading his teaching is one part of it. But essentially, the goal is to fulfill his dream. And his dream, we all know, was a capable, a samarth, sabal Bharat for the good of the world. Sri Aurobindo did not belong to one particular community or one particular place. He belonged to humanity. But he knew that the light to the humanity and for a harmonious world, it is imperative that Bharat must grow strong and capable. And for that, Bharat Shakti has to grow. In a mission which is dedicated towards energizing Bharat Shakti, which has been the core mission of my life, to be associated, it's again a matter of privilege and blessings for me, and for this I once again thank you very much. Friends, some ignorant people say that Sri Aurobindo, a great nationalist revolutionary, when he was hounded by the British, he escaped to Pondicherry. Nothing could be farther from truth. Sri Aurobindo did not escape. By the time Sri Aurobindo came to this land, he knew that Bharat was awake to her destiny of freedom. Even though there was no organized national freedom movement, that energy of being awake was manifest in several acts. And most demonstrably it manifested when the British communally partitioned Bengal and created a Muslim Bengal. The whole Bharat revolted. There was no Indian National Congress to lead it. Mahatma Gandhi was not in picture. And yet, the entire Bharat revolted. Here in Tamil Nadu, V.O. Chidambaram Pillai led the movement. So many of them, thousands and thousands of people came. It is not acceptable. Bharat cannot be divided on communal line because this is against the very idea of Bharat. Sri Aurobindo knew that this awakened Bharat is definite to get its goal or destiny of being free, being independent. The question that bothered him at the time was, what would happen thereafter? Bharat will become independent sooner than later. But what will happen thereafter? With the disappearance of the common enemy, the unity that he has seen, that we have all seen together, will it persist, or will they again get into petty fights? Because Bharat was not a slave forever. It wasn't. It has a long history of independent, prosperous Bharat, spreading goodness and goods around the world. But then, it was enslaved and it remained slave for almost 1,000 years. So what was the guarantee that after independence it will not again be? This issue, this concern was very aptly articulated by Dr. B.R. Ambedkar in his last speech to the Constituent Assembly. As a chairman of the drafting committee, he had presented the Constitution's draft, it was debated, and final speech on 25th of November 1949. In his concluding para of his speech, he says, I am worried. India is independent. We have a constitution, and shortly we are going to be a republic. My worry is, will India be able to preserve its independence? Because India was not a slave forever. And then he recalls and recounts landmark moments of history, beginning Arab invasion of Sindh. He says when Muhammad bin Qasim invaded Sindh, who betrayed Dahir Sain, the king of that place? His own people. That led to the defeat and incursion of the Arabs. Who invited Muhammad Ghori to India to fight against Prithviraj Chauhan? His own people. When Shivaji Maharaj was fighting to save the soul of Bharat against the atrocities of Aurangzeb, who were all fighting against him? They were collaborators of the Mughals, locals who were fighting against him. And when the British were fighting the then ruler of Punjab, Gulab Singh, who betrayed Gulab Singh? His own people. So his worry was whether an independent India will be able to preserve her independence. The concern which Sri Aurobindo had realized and worked on almost 4 decades before. Sri Aurobindo, after deliberations, he came to the conclusion, the distillation of his meditation and his deliberations was, Bharat, first of all, Bharat has to preserve her independence. That's not enough. Bharat has a divinely ordained obligation. And what is that? He said that on this entire universe, Earth is the only planet where consciousness is at the evolutionary stage. It has been evolving from Jad to Jiva, Chetan, and then Chaitanya. It is in the process of going up. But this knowledge that we are all one, the entire creation is one, this knowledge, this wisdom came to this very land. The entire world is a family. The entire creation is a family. There is a kinship in creation. That light came only to this land. So this land, he asked, did it happen by coincidence? No. It was a divine dispensation. So it was the obligation of Bharat to rise and spread the light of universal brotherhood to the rest of the world. And for that, Bharat must be strong. Bharat can preserve her independence and Bharat can fulfill her destiny to spread the light only by strengthening Matra, this Bharat Shakti. And what is Bharat Shakti? We all know. He said, it is a living energy of a great spiritual conception. And what is that great spiritual conception? This spiritual conception was what thousands of years ago, one doesn't have a true account of it, but conservative estimate, they say perhaps 5,000 years ago, during the Vedic period, our rishis, when they discovered the unity of creation, the Creator, having created, is present in every element of creation. Not only in humans, animals and plants, even in what we call inanimate. It is not inanimate. Consciousness is at a sleeping stage. It is one and the same, which manifests in countless forms. This unity, this oneness, the light that was bequeathed by the Vedic rishis, it was spread over the land. People speaking different languages, inhabiting different regions, wearing different costumes and eating different cuisines. The light spread. But this light was so potent that for its diversity was a celebration. Diversity was the beauty of the creation which the Creator had created. And with this spread of this light, people, while keeping their language, keeping their custom, keeping their cuisine and costume, they felt united, they felt as a family. Friends, Bharat Shakti can be understood and appreciated only and only if we understand Bharat. Bharat, unfortunately, there is enormous lack of understanding. Bharat cannot be understood in terms of a political state with the European notion of a political state. We all know what is a political state, European definition which is taught in our schools and colleges. Political sciences students, they study. An entity with 4 attributes is called a state. There is a defined territory, population inhabiting that territory, there is a government governing that population, and that government is sovereign. These 4 attributes makes an entity a political state. If that be the case, where does Bharat fit in? At no point of time there was any one ruler who ruled the whole Bharat. Numerous, at any point of time. Different parts, numerous parts of this beautiful sacred land was ruled by different, numerous kings. And yet, a person from Kashmir could easily come over to Kanyakumari, to Rameswaram, without any let and hindrance. When nearly 400 years before the Common Era, during the time of Chandragupta Maurya, when Acharya Bhadrabahu from Patliputra left with 14,000 of his Shramana devotees, walked from Patliputra, came to Shravan-Belgola in Karnataka, and then went over to Arihantagiri in today's Tamil Nadu. Imagine 14,000 people walking, traveling, and there are people and institutions all around to facilitate, to host, to make their journey comfortable. They passed through numerous kings and kingdoms, unstopped, unhindered. They were all facilitators. Over 1500 years ago, our own Mahabalipuram, what we is Mamlapuram, seat of Pallava kings, a Pallava prince who was to be anointed as the king, he renounced. With his 500 assistants, he went over to Nalanda. He studied. He walked from here. He went all the way to Nalanda. He studied. He became Acharya. He was christened Bodhidharma. He taught there. He came later. He went by Coromandel coast and introduced Buddhism to China. When Bodhidharma went and came back, there was no obstruction. People facilitated. 600 years ago, from Kamarup, which is Assam today, Mahapurush Shankar Dev, he traveled, went to Rameswaram. He studied. Those days Rameswaram was a seat of learning. He studied there. He came to Kanchipuram. He studied there. Then he came to Kashi, studied longer. He went back to Kamrup, and the first composition he made was Dhanya Dhanya Bharat Bhumi. This is a long journey. There was no obstruction. There was no problem. Until 1801, when the British occupied this area, 50,000 people every year used to travel from Kashi to Rameswaram. Every year. This was recorded by the last Maratha king of this place, based in Tanjore, Sarfoji Maharaj, 20th of January 1801, when the British captured this land. He wrote a letter saying that, okay, you have captured this land, fine. But there is a chain of institutions, thousands of them, which caters to 50,000 people traveling from Kashi to Rameswaram every year, and where they are given free meals a day. Those who are sick, they are nursed, because there used to be Vaidya, doctors there. They used to take rest, recuperate themselves and move on. He appealed to the British, please don't disturb that. Of course, British had no reason to preserve it, they destroyed. But what I am trying to say is, this Bharat cannot be understood in terms of a modern political state, because it doesn't fit into that. Maybe today as a political state we can say that yes, we have a central government and we have a territory. But it is not Bharat. Bharat is a Rashtra. Rashtra is not a nation. This is not a synonym. We often use the word, but that is not correct. Because the nation still remains an inconclusive concept, political concept, created in Europe. And the father of grammar of politics, Harold Lasky, records, he labors hard to define what is nationalism, what is nation. Remains inconclusive. You read the chapter in grammar of politics, you will only remain confused, because by that definition, there is no nation in the world. Rashtra. What is Rashtra? Bharat is a Rashtra. But what is Rashtra? Rashtra which is born out of this light, the light given by our Vedic rishis that we are all one. And our Rig Veda says, what is Rashtra? Rig Veda tells us, Bhadram Ikshantarisaya, Swavida Tapo Diksham, Upanisheduragra, Tato Rashtram Balamojas Jatam. Bhadram Ikshantarisaya, rishis with a Vishwa Kalyankari, Lok Kalyankari Bhavana, with the desire to save the world, to do good to the world. Such rishis, equipped with Swavida Atma Gyan. And what is Atma Gyan? Mamatma Sarvabhut Atma. My Atma is the Atma of all the Bhutas, all the beings. This is Atma Gyan. The Atma Gyan with Lord Sri Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, Sarvabhutesu venaikyam bhavam abhyavam ikshate avibhaktam vibhaktesu tadagyanam vidhisatvikam. Indivisible looking divided, numerously divided. Your ability to see that it is indivisible. All of us sitting here, manifestation of one and the same. This ability to see that knowledge is the sattvic knowledge. When we see the difference, it is a tamasic. So one in all and all in one. That was Atma Gyan. So rishis, equipped with self-knowledge, Atma Gyan, and with a desire to serve the humanity, to serve the world, with their tap and diksha, with their hard work, that Rashtra is created. Rashtra is created. Friends, when Adi Sankaracharya moved from one end to the other, spreading the light, Rishi. And you know, many of you would be knowing that when he was to depart, who did he appoint as a successor at Kanchi Peeth? Sureswaracharya from Kashmir. From Kashmir he got Sureswaracharya to come and sit in his seat as his successor, the first reincarnated Sankaracharya of Kanchi Kamakot Peeth. Such rishis have created Rashtra. Bharat is a Rashtra because of this light, because of this great spiritual conception, which Sri Aurobindo says in his own unique way. And this unique spiritual conception, that unity, that energy that it creates, a living energy, this is Bharat Shakti. So this Bharat Shakti has to rise for fulfilling the destiny of Bharat. And Sri Aurobindo knew his time period was such where it was full of conflict, full of tensions, full of war. He had witnessed 2 world wars, massive suffering. For the first time, humans saw an enormous destructive power in the hands of human when atomic weapons were dropped at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. such conflict-ridden world, with such a destructive power, what is the fate of this humanity? Self-destruction? Sri Aurobindo said, no, it is not. We have to evolve. We have to evolve and spread the light of universal brotherhood, light of oneness. At this light, he thought that with independence of India, Renaissance of India was coming. And Bharat would be able to discharge its divine obligation by strengthening the Bharat Shakti, by strengthening that great spiritual conception. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. It was a miscarriage of a dream, because the people, those who came at the helm of affairs, and the system that they carried, did everything possible to undermine the Bharat Shakti. They tried their best to deny, to neutralize that great spiritual conception, this realization given to us by the Vedic rishis, which we call dharma, which we call Sanatan Dharma. At the time of independence, we were all one. Of course, the country was partitioned. And Sri Aurobindo didn't like it. He called it a temporary phenomenon. He says that this is not acceptable. It was not a partition of a territory or separation of people. It was a fatal blow on the very idea of Bharat. Bharat is all inclusive. It doesn't recognize anyone else. Because once I say that we are all manifestation of the one and the same, how can you say that, no, you are different, I am different? And if an ideology, if a faith which does not accept it, and if they insisted on partition and partition happened, it was a fatal blow on the very idea of Bharat, and Sri Aurobindo was pained and anguished at it. He thought at the most, it must be a temporary phenomenon. But then, after independence, instead of strengthening Bharat Shakti, we went on appeasing those very ideas and ideologies which had negated Bharat and Bharat Shakti. The first Prime Minister is on record within a few years of taking charge. He says, my greatest challenge is to build a secular state on a profoundly religious society. Friends, we all know that secularism as an issue came up in our Constituent Assembly. When the Constitution was finally drafted and almost getting finalized, there was no secularism word in that. One member, K.T. Shah, because our Constitution was created out of several European and American constitutions put together, and since they had in the European constitutions mention of secularism, K.T. Shah said, do we mention something about secularism? The whole House unanimously said, is European secularism relevant to us? European secularism is built out of hostility between the state and the church. Out of that hostility, they had to separate their own respective domains. Bharat is born out of a conception, a spirituality that we are all one. Our approach is sarva mat, sarva pantha samabhav. We have equal respect for all pantha. Where is relevance of secularism? And so it was dropped. It was not mentioned. But later, an insecure Prime Minister introduced it during emergency, the word secularism. And even when this word was introduced, Go into this, you can click on the internet. 26th, 27th of, if I remember correctly, it is August 1976, when Sardar Swaran Singh, the chairman of the Constitutional Review Committee, when he piloted the bill for amendment of the preamble, he mentioned it very clearly, because secularism was introduced out of that amendment. He said, as far as secularism is concerned, it is his words, not mine. As far as secularism is concerned, these are his words. I want to make it abundantly clear, our secularism is not European secularism. It is not born out of hostility. Ours is equal respect to all. But when it was translated and propagated, it became a dharma nirpeksh. You look the other way. This country, this Rashtra was built on a dharma. And how can you be dharma nirpeksh? Being equally respectful to all panth is one thing, but turning your back on dharma, how can you? And so undoing began. At the time of independence, the country was one. Within the first decade of independence, tension began, conflict began. Violence began in Northeast. People have started saying we will be separate. Linguistic riots began. People have started making demand that we want a separate state. The fire of separatism, fire of division spread. It kept spreading. One state became 7 states in the Northeast, all on the ground of separate ethnic identity. That couldn't stop, because if you keep dividing, it is like scales of a fish. If you keep removing the fish, fish will be dead. That is what they have been doing. The second Administrative Commission report, 2008. This Administrative Reform Committee report, it says conflict is embedded in the geography of India. How shameful. Conflict is embedded in the geography of India. And it is inevitable. All that we can do is how best to manage it. Look at the thinking. Where is Bharat Shakti? Where is Bharat? It was all jettisoned out. As a result, we kept getting divided. We kept becoming weaker and weaker, poorer and poorer. At the time of independence, we were the 6th largest economy. By 2014, we dipped down to the 11th. We kept talking about poverty alleviation, garebi hatao, and the number of poor kept inflating. We continue to remain a country that hosted the largest number of sick, poor, and illiterate people. Our growth, with due respect to economists, they coined a term, Hindu rate of growth. It is a society which cannot grow. It will grow. It will keep limping. It became an accepted term in the glossary of economists. But then, Renaissance came. It began in 2014. A new chapter, under new leadership with a new vision of Bharat Bhartiyata. And a project to fulfill the dream of Sri Aurobindo began on a mission mode. And what happened in the subsequent 10 years? we are the fastest growing large economy in the world. Nobody today talks about Hindu rate of growth. And by all calculations, people across the sections, they accept that soon we are going to be the third largest. A country which was nowhere in the reckoning except for population and poverty. Today, it is one among the 3 largest startup ecosystem in the world. In the field of science and technology, we are among the top. In the digital payment system, we are among the top. As far as the digital payment is concerned, in the terms of number, we are the largest per day. 25 crore people pulled out of poverty. All these miracles have been happening, which seemed incredible, impossible. But how is it happening today? Is it being done by the government? No. It is being by the people. It is being done by the people, achieved by the people. It is our young men and women who are doing this wonder. All that the government is doing is to remove the obstacles, to create conducive environment, to raise Bharat Shakti with pride. Whether it is Pran Pratishtha of Sri Ram or building of Kasi corridor or Adi Shankaracharya at Kedarnath or a statue of equality Ramanujacharya near Hyderabad, all over. These are all, in every field, comprehensive rise of Bharat by awakening the Bharat Shakti. Putting trust in the people. Knowledge, creativity, energy lies in every Bharatiya, every individual. All that we need to do is to awaken that creativity, that energy. And miracle is not far off. It is happening, it will continue to happen. Friends, while the good story is on, the project is on to fulfill the dream of Sri Aurobindo, we must be aware of the enemies of Bharat Shakti. Shatru Bodh. Shatru Bodh, since our ancient literatures, they have made it abundantly clear that a society or a Rashtra that doesn't have a clear understanding of the enemy and friends will continue suffering, will not even have the loyalty of their friends, because they do not know to distinguish who is your enemy, who is your friend. So Shatru Bodh is essential. We must have clarity about who are the enemies of Bharat Shakti. Enemies number 1, European secularism. European secularism is denial and negation of Bharat Shakti. It cannot be accepted. It has to be Bharatiya secularism, that is equal respect to all. It is not turning away from dharma, because you cannot turn away from dharma. What is dharma? Dharma is not rituals, is not confined to certain rites prescribed by certain people. These are okay, it's part of paraphernalia. But dharma is beautifully explained by, again, Sri Krishna in Karna Parva of Mahabharata. Karna Parva, we know that it was the 17th day of the fight, Mahabharata, when Karna was on the battlefield and he was destroying Pandava's army. Mercilessly he was decimating. Yudhishthir was badly injured. He could have killed him, but he spared his life because he had given word to his mother Kunti that I will only kill Arjuna, nobody else. Yudhishthira, an injured Yudhishthira, comes and asks Arjuna, go and kill this Karna. At that point of time, Arjun, he was fighting some other warriors around. He said, let me finish these guys, then I will go. An impatient and angry Yudhishthira abused him. He also abused Gandiva. And Arjun was under a vow that anyone who insults Gandiva has to be killed. And he said, I have to fulfill my personal dharma. I have taken a vow. And then Sri Krishna comes and stops him. I said, what is your notion of? As always, when he was confused about the battle, Dharma Yudh, Bhagavad Gita immersed. Whenever he got confused, Lord Sri Krishna gave him a lesson, a message. And there Sri Krishna tells him, what is dharma? Dharanat dharma ityahu dharmo dharyati praja yah syat dharana sanjukta sa dharma iti nishchaya. Dharma is one that brings harmony. Dharma is one that holds together. Anything, any act, manasa, vacha, karmana, whether in your idea, a thought, in your speech or in your action, if it brings harmony, it is a dharma. And around this dharma, our society, Bharat Rashtra, has been created. You cannot, and the institutions that we have around, in terms of tirtha and all, are the watering holes of this dharma. That is where people get the nourishment. Whether it is Aurobindo Ashram, whether it is Auroville, whether it is all the tirtham that we have around the country, numerous of them, these are watering holes of our dharma. You cannot turn your face away from it. So, European secularism has to be rejected outrightly. We have to have our definition of secularism, that is equal respect to all. The second enemy of Bharat Shakti, they are the arrogant theologies. Arrogant theologies that believe that my God is the supreme and only God, nobody else. You must follow my God or else you suffer the consequence. No, this is not acceptable. This is not. This arrogant theology has no place in Bharat. And there is no question of rejecting it or not accepting it or protesting it mealy-mouthed. It has to be vehemently rejected. In Bharat, there is no place for any theology that says, I am the superior, not the rest. Rest all follow mine. This is not. We have to be cautious and careful about it. Enemy number 3. Political ideologies that promote social and class conflict. Social and class conflict is not Bharatiya Darshan, is not Bharat Shakti, is not that great spiritual conception which Sri Aurobindo talked about. There is no class, there is no conflict. We cannot accept it. And if there is an ideology that promotes it, it has to be rejected. It is an enemy of Bharat Shakti. And friends, all these entities who rejoiced happily for nearly 6.5 decades, and Bharat kept declining. We kept fighting among ourselves. They are now worried. They are up to all mischief. They would use the most advanced scientific tools to create negative narratives. Nothing good is happening in this country. When the whole world knows that we are the fastest growing economy in the world, when the whole world knows that we are among the top startup ecosystem in the world, we have our digital public infrastructure is the envy of the world, of the envy of the advanced world and inspiration of the developing world. We see change happening all over. We see massive infrastructure, world-class infrastructure coming up. We see the prosperity by in every aspect, every section of life and society. And yet still a narrative is built, nothing good is happening. This negative narrative they will create. They will try to. And they are trying to. Not will, they are trying to. Undermine confidence in public institutions. Election Commission of India is compromised. It is not reliable. Don't trust. Courts are compromised. That is how they will say. All the institutions which are crucial for not only governance, for good governance, but for the rise of Bharat Shakti, they are questioned, their credibility are questioned. A fiction, a negative fictions created to undermine public confidence in those institutions. They will continue doing that. We need to be careful about that. Friends, these people will use from the toolkit of the icon of the anarchist, Jenny Holzer. Jenny Holzer has compiled a set of how to spread anarchy in a country. And people are using it exactly from that. She says, fear is the most elegant weapon. Accentuate sense of insecurity. Play on people's sense, first ignite a sense of insecurity and play on it like a violin. These are our words. Let sense of collective insecurity grow. Because when it grows, a panicked human herd is prone to go over the cliff. Undermine public confidence. These are all from the toolkit of Jenny Holzer, which people have been using it, anarchists have been using it all across. And these are the tools which are being used today in this country. We have to be careful about that, because they do not want Bharat to rise. They do not want a harmonious, beautiful world. Imagine, today there is so much of acceptance of Bharat's leadership. Only a year back, when we hosted the presidency of G20, what was the motto? Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam. One world, one family, one future. This is received from our Vedic rishis. This is the tenet of Bharat Shakti. And we demonstrated it by including the African Union in G20. Such a large mass of humanity. How can they be left out? No. It occurred to Bharat, and Bharat did it. We saw Bharat Shakti we saw in COVID. When the whole world was under the grip of it, nobody knew the beast. At that point of time, when some developed advanced countries they discovered the vaccine. The expectation around the world was that a catastrophe of this magnitude, which didn't spare anyone, it would ignite a sense of compassion among the advanced countries, and they would share the medicine, the vaccines with those who are less fortunate. It didn't happen. Vaccine nationalism grew. They started hoarding vaccines much more than they needed. It was at that point of time, thanks to our scientists, when we discovered the vaccine, we shared the vaccine with over 150 countries in the world. This is Bharat Shakti. This is Bharat. And that is why today a conflict-ridden world looks upon Bharat with expectation to bring peace. We see it every day. This is new Bharat. To build this new Bharat is the responsibility of all of us. We have, wherever we are, whichever field we are, we have to rise to our maximum potential. Whatever we do, whichever field, if we do it with a sense that this is a part, this infinitesimal contribution of mine will integrate into developing a gigantic Bharat Shakti. With that sense, if I do it, I am contributing to it. I think we need to do that. Every Bharatiya has today an obligation, a responsibility. This is the golden moment for Bharat. It's the moment of Renaissance to fulfill the dream of Sri Aurobindo. And I am confident we will all do it. The confidence comes from what the people of this country have demonstrated all these 10 years. Impossible has been turned possible, and that too in a record time. We are confident it will achieve what its destiny is, to rise for the good of the world. In this endeavor, Pondicherry Lit Festival, your contribution in collating, in igniting the mind is enormous. Don't think it's just small. This small spark will ignite many minds, which will further ignite many more minds. It will be a spiritual chain reaction, and it will spread all over. Bharat will rise, we have no doubt about it, and he will continue spearheading the movement, spearheading the mission of igniting Bharat Shakti. He will do that. We have full confidence in it. Thank you very much for the occasion. Thank you very much. Jai Bharat.